Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm indie author Jill, and today we're looking at True to My Name by Rogue Merlot, which, first of all, I love that author name. It just gives you an image, and the writing of this book does not disappoint. You could absolutely, the book and the name goes so well with one another. The True to My Name character, the female main character is Jessie West, and her full name is Jessie James West, and she talks about, the back of the book says, when your name is Jessie James West, you feel like you have a lot to live up to, a daring outlaw, a life of adventure, and verifiable badass. And I would say, for the most part, she nails it. The main character is Damien. The main male character is Damien. This starts off feeling very much like your stereotypical romance. You've got the main female character, you got the main male character. They start dating, they have conflict during that whole dating scene. They work it out and they get together. What I like about this is it's a refreshing take on the whole romance novel trope. And I won't say a whole lot about this because it's not a thick book, and I read this in like less than a day. So there's not much that I can tell without giving it away. It does follow the stereotypical, like, Harlequin romance novel-esque tropes, with the exception of what makes it refreshing is they're not your typical romance characters. Jessie doesn't have, first of all, does not have a hair color that is naturally found on anybody's head. She changes her hair color a lot. Sometimes it's fuchsia, sometimes it's green or blue or whatever, and at this point it's fuchsia. Damien is not your standard like muscular cowboy or business tycoon whose muscles came from working in the gym type thing and never saw a day of hard labor in his life type guy. And that's one of the things that is kind of a hold on the romance genre, is that you've got this traditionally beautiful woman and this traditionally beautiful guy, and they come from two different worlds, and they have to kind of figure out how to be together despite their differences. And Jessie and Damien pretty much take those expectations of romance novels and just chuck it out the window. And what I love about this is because they're so normal and they're so relatable. First of all, they're not from different worlds, really at all. They both work in a garage. Jess is one of the receptionists, Damien's one of the mechanics. They go to the same bars, they hang out at a lot of the same places, and they're both facing the same problems. They both have their own issues that they've dealt with in the past. And so when they find out about each other's past, they're like, yeah, so what? Big deal. I don't care about that, because same. And then on top of that, they also have their own family drama. The story kicks off with Jess waking up with a hangover. She's gone out to the bar, she's gotten drunk, and she's waken up to some guy whose name she can't even remember. Doesn't even remember getting his name at the bar to begin with. She is like in the bathroom trying to pull herself together and get over the hangover, which is hindered by the fact that somebody is knocking down her door. And like, she's like, who in the world is knocking on my door this loudly and this insistently at the crack of dawn? And so she just grabs the first clothes she can find, gets to the door, opens it, and she's like, what? And there's her baby brother. And Richie's like, are you wearing Spider-Man boxers? And she's like, dude, what do you want? Why are you banging down my door at the crack of dawn? And he's like, it's 1:30 p.m. And she's like, cool, what do you want? And so they go into the apartment, and he's basically like, look, I gotta crash here because things at home are terrible. And she's like, okay, well, what did mom's new boyfriend do this time? And she doesn't even know the new boyfriend's name at this point, because her mom just kind of cycles through one boyfriend, bad boyfriend after the other. And her poor kid brother Richie is stuck living there. So anytime he needs to run away for a while, he comes to his sister, and she is more than welcoming to him. She's like, dude, yes, of course you can crash here. And he pulls out a bag of weed, and they start rolling and smoking, and drunk dude, bar dude, comes out, and he's like, oh, there's my clothes. And he's naked because his clothes are on Jess. And he just sits down, and she's like, yeah, Richie, this is... We don't find out in that moment what his name is, because she can't remember, and he doesn't offer it. They just sit there and start talking as if nothing is weird about this interaction. And while I don't drink, I don't smoke weed myself, but I grew up around that. I grew up around drinking and smoking. A lot of my friends, when I was growing up, smoked weed. I never got into it as heavily as they did. I did try it when I was younger, and it just didn't have any effect on me, so I didn't see the point for myself. Drinking I did when I was, drinking definitely had an effect on me, and I enjoyed drinking when I was younger. Now I'm older, and I don't recover from hangovers as easily as I do, so, once did. So I have stopped drinking, but, like, these people are so freaking real. And I love that they're not trying to mitigate differences between themselves. They're not trying to, like, okay, I have to figure out how to make your world and my world combine. It's like, no, we're pretty much in the same world. We just got to figure out how to balance your crap with my crap and make this less crap, you know? And they have such a genuine concern for one another, and they both have this, like, ride or die mentality to the people they love. There's another receptionist that works at the garage, Chloe, who is kind of a mother hen, and she's on the same track these guys are. She goes to the bar, she gets drunk, she's hanging out with different guys, and she finds a guy that she's interested in, and she kind of sticks with him, which even Jess is like, whoa, Chloe, you found a guy that you're sticking with for a hot minute. That's impressive, you know? But the things that they do that show that they care are not things that you would normally find in a typical romance novel. They, but they're real. They're genuine. And, so, regardless of if I condone their lifestyle or not, it's not my place to judge their lifestyle. And by the end of the book, they are all very comfortable with their lifestyles. Damien, like I said, they're, the things they're dealing with are very much the same. They both have a past they're dealing with. They both have issues. They both had traumatic, had relationships that were just not, they don't have the best, neither one of them have the best track record when it comes to relationships, working out. They both have family issues they're dealing with. She's letting her baby brother crash with her because he just needs a safe place to fall. He's taking care of his sister who ended up in the hospital, and when she gets out of the hospital, she comes and lives with him. And so rather than being and they still have this thought process of, you're not in my league. I'm like, you're out of my league. And like, she's like, you're perfect and I'm a hot mess. And he's like, where did you see perfect in this life? You know, he says, I'm taking care of a sister who just got out of the hospital. I have a past. I'm out here drinking just as much as anybody else, you know, and like, he doesn't feel like his life is perfect. She doesn't feel like her life is perfect. And as they're getting to know each other, they're realizing, okay, your life isn't perfect, but I don't think your life is as messed up as you think it is. And together they're trying to help each other realize that the other person's, like, he's trying to help her realize, like, you think your life is a mess, but you actually have it all together. I have a lot more together than you think you do. Like, you have a place that your brother feels safe with. You have a job. You are taking care of yourself. You are taking handouts from nobody, and you still manage to be able to have enough money to not only pay your bills and take care of the things you need to take care of, but you also have money for going out and having a good time with your friends. You are responsible. You don't go to when you know you're going to the bar and you're going to be drinking, you take an Uber so you don't have to drive home. Like, you've got more going for you than you realize, but in her mind, all she sees is how far she hasn't gone. And he sees the same thing for himself, is like, they feel like they're stuck and they're not as far as they should be, but they're so much further than what anyone in their situation and anyone with their upbringing should be by societal standards, because society has taken these people and like, you know, you didn't go to college, so you're gonna be a loser all your life, and you're gonna starve because you can't make enough money to get by. And she gets by just fine. She has a decent apartment. She has a decent car. She has a Camaro, you know. And yeah, it's her dad's Camaro, but she didn't fall on such hard times that she had to sell it to make ends meet. She was able to hang on to her dad's car. And so, as far as Damien sees it, you've got your life together pretty darn well. And she's the same way of like, you know, you got your own place, you have the means to take care of your sister, you know, you're doing better than what you think you're doing. And I love this for them, that they use that language of ride or die, and trying to talk to each other, and their miscommunications aren't those stereotypical tropey miscommunications where they're not communicating clearly because they're being stupidly vague. It's they're not communicating because of what they've been taught growing up, how they've been taught to communicate, how they've been taught to use their words. And I find, like, growing up, I grew up, you know, not middle class, somewhere between poverty and middle class, somewhere in that, because we never had like brand new stuff. Somehow my parents always managed to come up with the money for new shoes each year, but most of our new clothes came from like Goodwill or Salvation Army. We went to we got food from food banks and churches a lot of the time. But we never felt wealthy, but we never really felt poor. And I don't know if we actually did grow up poor. Like, we were constantly having to move because of one thing or another. A lot of times it was because of one of my parents' jobs. It was better to move to get closer to their work, because as much as they wanted the job, they couldn't afford the commute. They couldn't justify the commute that it would take to get there. And so they would start the job, get a few paychecks in, and then they would put a down payment on another place, and we would move in a place where both parents could get to their jobs, and it wasn't a massive commute to or from places. Another place we lived in, it was a very dangerous neighborhood, and we stayed there for about 2 or 3 years while my parents saved up trying to get us moved into a better neighborhood. And at that point my dad was like, we would be moving closer to my mom's work, farther from my dad's work, but we would be moving in a place where the neighborhood would at least be safer and the school system was better. And my dad justified the cost because he was making decent money at his job, to where the raise that he got mitigated the extra commute. And so we moved to a nicer neighborhood, and it was the first time we had real stability, because we stayed there for 10, 15 years before we moved again. And that time we moved because we were moving in with a grandparent. My grandmother had passed away, and we moved in with my grandfather to help him deal with, it had only been him and grandma for the longest time, and they had this massive house, and he was going stir crazy in this massive house. And so we moved in to help with the bills and to help with keeping it straight and keeping it clean and keeping it filled. And after he got to a point where he felt like he wanted to be on his own again, we started looking around, and this time we could choose really anywhere we wanted, and we chose to move up to Michigan to be closer to some family. And again, we changed schools, and we found ourselves in a nice small town where everybody knows your name. And we by that time we were in high school. We were 2 or 3 years, I was 2 years from graduating, my brothers were 3 years from graduating, and we moved to Michigan, and we stayed there until graduation. And then when we moved, then we started moving out, and my parents were like, the house is too big, we need to move, we want to downsize. And they moved back to Indiana from Michigan, and we had to, it was in Michigan and coming back to Indiana as adults that we were able to start learning a better way of communicating, because we sought out classes that were not necessarily college classes, but just understanding that the vocabulary that we had and the register that we had was not doing us any favors. And because when you are raised in a certain way of communication, it's not that you are communicating, it's not that your miscommunications are tropey like in sitcoms and whatnot. It's that you have a hard time articulating what it is you want to say in a way that it comes across to the other person the way you meant it. And we grew up a lot of times offending people because we would say something and we're like, what are you talking about? That's not what I meant at all. That's not how I meant at all. And like, there's an instance where Jess is at the bar and she's inebriated. She is very much inebriated. And Damien calls her and he's like, hey, where you at? And she's like, I'm at the bar. And he's like, did you drive there? And she's like, no, I'm not an idiot. And he's like, I didn't say you were. And she's like, but that's what you meant. And it's like, no, he didn't mean that. But because of how she has learned to communicate, and not only how she's learned to communicate, but also the relationship she's had before where others have meant that. Well, yeah, of course I meant you're an idiot, because if you would drive to a bar, then yeah, you're probably an idiot. And so in her mind, there's no other way he could have meant it. his thought process was, no, I didn't think that you drove there to get drunk to drive back. I just want to make sure that you're safe. I want to know, did you drive there? Because if you did and you got drunk without intending to get drunk, then I want to make sure you're getting home safely. And she's like, well, I'm going to get home the same way I got here. And he's like, well, how is that? And again, it's not that he's trying to nitpick and be judgmental. He wants to know who she's with, not because he's being possessive or controlling, but he knows that her best friend Chloe's not there, and he wants to know, are you with somebody that you know, that you are comfortable with, or did you ride with some stranger? Because if you rode with some stranger, I'm on my way to come and get you because I want to make sure you're okay. And she's like going off on him, and he's like, look, I'm not going to have this discussion with you when you're like this. And she's like what? And of course she's getting defensive. And this way of communicating is a very base way of communicating for her, because that's where she's at. She's at a very base cognitive state because she's heavily inebriated. Now, if she had been sober, she probably would have had similar reactions, but it would have been a little less challenging, and she would have kind of gauged her response. But she's immediately defensive because she's used to being attacked. And so the way she's learned to communicate, it's not something that's her fault. It's how she was raised by her mom, who, like I said, is a real winner with all of her, what did she call a rotary door of suitors, and the past trauma that she's dealt with past relationships. Because when every guy you've ever dated has been a narcissistic, controlling manipulator, you just kind of start thinking all guys are like that. And Damien's obviously not like that, but she doesn't know that yet at that point. So I love that the miscommunication isn't, like I said, tropey and stupid. It's genuine, and it's like, yeah, I could see why that miscommunication happened. That is a genuine miscommunication. And I think a lot of writers, especially the traditionally published writers, could take note from that, of this is how you write a miscommunication trope without people rolling their eyes so hard that they just yeet the book and like, nope, can't read it, I can't do it, this is just stupid. So, yeah, I will leave the link to the book in the description below. If you are into romance novels that use strong language, that have open door spicy scenes, that take place on the hood of a really cool car, you know, or whatever. And if you're looking for someone who just a genuine set of characters that feel like you know them, like I honestly feel like any of the friends that I grew up with in high school and some of the friends that I know now absolutely could be these people. And it's nice to see real, genuine people in a romance novel, because the movie stars and the Greek gods aren't the only ones that deserve a hot, steamy romance, okay? So go get this book if those are the things that you're interested in, and I will leave a link in the description below. I will also link a link to one of my books in the description below. And if you are a self-published author or have published a book through an indie publishing company, the address is below if you want to send me a book to read and potentially review. I don't have a genre preference, so let that be your guide, I guess. Anyway, I will talk to you guys next time. I will see you later. That's all I've got for you. Bye.